All right, on the bench today, the E-Flite 1.5m P-51D Mustang. And if you guys have been following my channel enough to know, the Mustang is one of my all-time favorite aircraft. I have a few favorite warbirds on the fighter side of things in World War II, and that'd be the Spitfire, the Corsair, and of course the Mustang. And of all those, the one I probably love the most is the P-51 Mustang. I own a bunch of them. I got UMX ones, I got some Park Flyer sized ones, I got a pair of 1.2 meters. And when this one came out from E-Flite, I really fell in love with the airplane really quick. Unfortunately, I just had bought my 1.2 meter like at the same time that this one came out, so I wasn't really in the market for another one. Well, I've been flying this in the latest version of E-Flite 1.5, and I gotta tell you, this is the most solid flying P-51 I have ever experienced. And like I said, I've flown a lot of P-51s. None fly as incredible as this one. It is rock solid. It is totally steady in the air. It flies like a great big plane with the beauty and grace of a P-51. And I knew it was only a matter of time before I would have to own one as well. So the opportunity came up. I decided to take it and get this one here on the workbench. So we're gonna go ahead and get the unboxing video done. We'll kind of talk about the airplane a little bit as we unbox it. But yeah, this thing is, first of all, you'll notice the box is huge on it. I mean, it's probably, lengthwise, it's probably about the same as the EC 1500, but the box on the EC 1500 was considerably deeper than this one. The artwork on it, of course, is beautiful. It's got that bright yellow nose of the 361st Fighter Group. It's got the blue camouflage on it as well. I'll have a whole separate video on the blue versus green thing later. We'll go ahead and get it unboxed, but and kind of go over some of the features. But overall, yeah, this thing is going to be totally cool. I have not seen it outside the box, this particular one. I did see a demo unit earlier this summer, and I absolutely was blown away by how incredibly gorgeous the plane looks when in person, and how well it flies, and how just incredibly scaled it looks in the air. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this thing out of the box, and let's talk about it along the way. All right, well, we have the P-51 out of the box here. Let's go ahead and start breaking it down. It's an incredibly tight fit in the cardboard box, by the way, so much so that I accidentally broke the side of the foam container off while trying to pull it out of the cardboard box. It's a very tight fit. They didn't ship a lot of air with this one. So let's go ahead and start here, shall we? All right, one of the first pieces to come out is the outer wing structure. This is actually the left-hand wing. We can see we got the navigation light already pre-installed, national insignia decal on there. And what I really thought is very cool about this P-51 is the system that they use to lock the outer wing panels to the center section of the wing. The center section of the wing is going to stay installed on the airplane, and it uses these kind of these push clips here that have a quick release mechanism that's built into them, so that you can actually remove these for flying, or I mean for transporting, which is fantastic. Someone like me who's got a kind of a smaller car, you can take off the outer wing panels, the rest of this stays intact. All the wire connections are already built into here. The spar is in here. You just simply slide it in and you're good to go. This is going to become extremely helpful with my Fiesta getting in and out. Plus, this design of being able to lock the outer wing panels in could easily be adapted to so many different types of aircraft. And if I think there's a lot of people like me that if you got to take the wings on and off, and you got to mess around with the wires for the flaps, the lights, the ailerons, and it turns into a mess. What you end up doing is you're not flying the airplane as much because it's kind of a hassle to constantly take it apart, put it together at the field, break it down again. Here, they've thought about that in advance, and they broke down the wing section into smaller pieces that kind of easily go together and come apart. Very cool feature, and definitely a huge selling point for me. So let's go ahead and keep breaking this down, shall we? This thing is so big that it's actually tough for me to get this thing unboxed and find some place for everything. So we got a small package of parts here. Looks like these are. This is an actual extra set of gear doors. That's pretty cool. Look at that. This is actually an updated set. I didn't know this was going to be part of it. It says right in here, these are a new set of gear doors and springs that are going to be more durable than what came from the factory. So very cool. Didn't know these even existed. So if you're getting a P-51, make sure you're aware that these are a little bit more durable units of the outer gear retract doors. So glad I found that little note. Got the little styrofoam bits all over me here. All right, now I think it's time for the wing section here. Let's get out the center section of the wing, shall we? Like I said, it's a pretty tight fit, and it's got some weight to it. So this is what I want to talk about a little bit. So we have the blue up on the top. Like I said, we'll get into the blue-green argument later. You'll notice that if you have the 1.2 meter, you notice that a lot of the shape and panel lines look very similar to the 1.2 meter Mustang. And if you notice that, you'd be right in thinking that, because really the 1.5 meter Mustang is really a scaled up version of the 1.2. And I was totally shocked at how well the 1.2 meter flies. This has the same wing profile, the same airfoil shape, basically the same as the 1.2 meter, just scaled up to 1.5. So you get all that wonderful, great flying experience you get with a 1.2. You're gonna get it in a slightly bigger scale. It's gonna be able to handle the wind a little bit better. It's gonna fly like a bigger plane because it is a bigger plane. So with that said, let's go ahead and flip over. And this is really one of my favorite things about this new P-51, and that is the sequence gear doors. So if you look at the 1.2 meter, you'll see that the wheels continually stick out. They don't fully close because there's no inner gear door. Well, on the 1.5 meter Mustang, they've added one of my favorite features of the real P-51, and that is these sequenced inner gear doors. So when the gear are ready to retract, these drop down, the gear retract, and then they suck back up again and then fully close off this area. So it's more aerodynamic, and of course that's the way the real ones sit. If you look at an air show, you'll see these actually hanging in like the halfway down position, and that's because they're hydraulic. And as the hydraulic pressure kind of bleeds off just from the pump not running, they tend to sag a little bit. And as soon as the engine fires up, you'll notice they come and they'll suck right back up into the wing. But yeah, very cool, because when you look down underneath here, when the plane flies over, you're not going to see the landing gear anymore. It's going to look like a real P-51. So they did a fantastic job doing that. And I can tell you, from seeing one of these fly in a demo, watching the airplane take off, these gear doors pop open, the retracts retract, the gear doors close back up again. It's totally cool. It adds a huge amount of realism to the P-51. And of course, just like the 1.2 meter, it's got the flaps on it. One thing to note here is that the end links on here are ball end links. They're not just little plastic clips or anything like that. These are actual ball end links, just like they are on the EC 1500. That's a very durable way of connecting the servo to the control surface. And I have to say, for flying a lot of 1.2, 1.3 meter style planes, these servos look absolutely huge in comparison. It's like everything is just so much bigger on this airplane. There's more room for a lot more scale detail, scale features such as the gear doors. This thing is going to be incredible when we get it done. All right, at this point we have the top layer of the box unpacked. So we're going to go ahead and move this out of the way. So the styrofoam's in two separate pieces here. I want to be careful on how I do this. I'm not exactly sure what's going to come falling out of here. It looks like just the manual. Let's go ahead and move this. So yeah, make sure you give yourself a pretty good size area to unbox this thing. The airplane is pretty big, and it takes a lot of room to kind of set everything out. So when you take the top half of the styrofoam off, the manual is shoved inside there. So just kind of make sure that you're aware that the manual is in there, so you don't let it drop on here. Looks like it's got a sticker on here that says there are some important instruction manual updates. So I imagine there's a new PDF version of the instruction manual that's available on Horizon Hobby's website that is more updated than the one that comes inside the box. So if you just got your P-51, you're putting it together, make sure you review the manual that's both online and in here. I'm not sure what the difference is, but you're going to want to make sure you're going to use the most current revision, and for that you're going to want to go to the website and review that for the P-51. All right, so now we have, I'll kind of flip this around a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. But now we have kind of the main fuselage here. We have the other wing panel. We got a prop. We got all the rest of the pieces and parts here. But I just want to if you guys take a look at this thing in the box here, because it's well packaged. It's well put together in here, and plus you get to see it. Look at this thing. It's absolutely stunning. It's an absolutely beautiful airplane. There is no doubt about it. E-Flite really got this one right. I can already see there's a lot more detail in the cockpit in this one than there is on the 1.2 meter, which gets me excited being into a lot of the scale details. I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun 3D printing some stuff for this airplane here. It's gonna be pretty cool. So let's go ahead and start on the horizontal stabulator. It's got the ETO stripes. These are these black stripes that are on the top and the bottom. They are for the European Theater of Operations. If this plane was olive drab and neutral gray on the bottom, these would be in white. If the plane is natural bare metal, bare aluminum, they will be shown in black. They are black on this particular airplane. The real Lu-4, a little bit up for debate. The most common theory is that they were actually just painted over. When they added the field camouflage to it, they just painted over the ETO stripes altogether. I like having them, so I will probably leave them in some capacity. But otherwise, it's a single piece. It's got a plastic joiner. It looks like it may actually even be metal. I'm not really sure. That joins both halves here, from where the control horn is to the other half of the elevator here. And of course, you always want to make sure you cycle this just a few times. That helps break that hinge in a little bit. Looks like just a few screws will attach. No big deal there. So we'll go ahead and move this out of the way. All right, next up, well, actually the other wing panel is underneath there, so let's just leave that. We have the two drop tanks. We'll go ahead and pull them out. Drop tanks are a lot more detailed than they are on the 1.2 meter. You can see you actually have the fuel lines that run up from the drop tank into the wing. Very detailed pylon, and of course the centering devices here that they kind of screw down to kind of center up the belly tank or the drop tank, as well as these also have that same like quick release system, so you can slide them in and out, which is one thing I loved about the 1.2 meter is you could fly it with or without the drop tanks just as you can the 1.5 meter. And then of course you can also, if you're like me, I designed up some pylons to install the 500-pound general purpose bombs from the P-47. So probably going to look at doing something similar to this one. I just got to figure out what I want to use as a starting point, and then I'll build up a hard point that kind of slides in. Otherwise, very cool. Lots of scale details even on the drop tanks. All right, next we'll go to we have the spinner. And let's see here, we get the spinner out of the plastic here, bright yellow. And what's cool about this is each individual blade kind of screws into this. So it's not just one solid piece of propeller, it's actually 4 individual blades, and they screw into here. It's got, looks like it's got hex features on the back that will lock the nuts into place. So it's very solid connection on that. It's even got the little scale access panel here. They did a pretty good job of modeling this. It's modeled in gloss yellow, and it looks to be about the right shade for insignia yellow, which is the right color for this P-51's nose. Then, as I mentioned, we have 4 individual prop blades. They screw in with 2 screws each, so we're going to keep them packaged up here for now. But yeah, there's 4 prop blades. One thing I really like about the 1.5 meter is the prop is scaled a little bit more accurate than it is on the 1.2 meter. 1.2 meter prop's a little bit on the small side to be scale correct. This one is much larger. It looks more accurate for the P-51, but that comes with a downside, and that downside is on takeoff, you're going to need to use a lot more right rudder to counteract the torque from the larger prop. The 1.2 meter already has a little bit of that, where you really need to be you're going to be on the rudder as soon as you start adding power to make sure that it doesn't start veering off. So you want to make sure that when you fly this, that you're even more aware you're going to need to be on the ball with your rudder input as well as your elevator input, and probably a little bit of aileron input to make sure that the aircraft goes straight down the runway and takes off actually straight rather than veering off one way or the other, or rolling a little bit because of the engine torque and the prop torque. So here's the propeller blades. We have the radio mast antennas in here. There's appears to be maybe an extra ball link or a ball link linkage that isn't installed yet. I'll have to dig into that. All your fasteners and screws are in here for the entire aircraft. They pretty much look exactly like the what you'd use on the 1.2 meter, just a lot longer. Otherwise, if you've built the 1.2 meter warbird, you're very familiar with this style hardware. No big surprise there. All right, let's get the fuselage out, shall we? Tell you what, this thing, take a look at the thing. How cool is this? This is an absolutely stunning, gorgeous P-51 Mustang. And one of the things I'm gonna say I dislike, but I'm not a big fan of on the 1.2 meters is the tail wheel hangs down. It's a fixed landing gear, it hangs down, it doesn't look scale correct. The 1.5 meter has a scale retract in the back. No more looking at a dorky wheel hanging down in the back here anymore. This thing retracts, little gear doors close up over it. How awesome is that? If you remember me talking about that ball link linkage that's inside the bag of hardware, well, that actually goes to the elevator. You can see the servo is mounted here, but it doesn't have the arm attached to it yet. So that's where that goes. Otherwise, it's finished in a beautiful silver paint. The foam quality on this thing is incredible. You can't even like see the cells anywhere. It's just this might be one of the best quality foam finishes I have seen in a long time. It is so incredibly smooth on here. It's outfitted in the LU 4 livery, LU 4 from the 361st Fighter Group. Perhaps one of the more well-known P-51s, and that's because it was featured in the picture known as the Boddingsham 4, taken in July, probably late July 1944. And sadly, less than a month later, the aircraft was destroyed and the pilot, Colonel Christensen, was killed. What makes this plane unique is its markings. It has the full yellow nose. That was very rare in 1944 for the 361st. It has the field-applied camouflage. A lot of argument over what color is proper for that. And it also has the invasion stripes on it. For my research, LU 4 never actually flew in D-Day. The plane did, but not as LU 4. It was actually transferred in from another group. The pilot, Christensen, he actually flew another airplane, I think a B model, maybe even a C model. That was LU the 3rd. So this is LU the 4th. It came in after D-Day, but it still retains the invasion stripes for marking, because they want to try to limit the number of friendly fire incidents from ground forces that were a little too trigger happy, which is kind of the whole reason why the invasion stripes were there to begin with. But yeah, overall, looking at the quality of the finish and the paint on this might be one of the best I have ever seen. It's just absolutely gorgeous. As I mentioned before, a lot more detail in the cockpit. Then see if I can find a way to set this down here. Okay, here we go. A little quick release here on the back, little pin retains that. A lot more depth and detail into the instrument panel area and cockpit of LU 4 compared to the 1.2 meter, which tells me I'm going to probably end up having to cut this canopy off and spend a lot of time detailing the interior. Looks like the pilot has his hands on an imaginary control stick, so we're going to go ahead and maybe model one in there along with a dash, and develops the gun sight and basically finish off this interior to make it look even more realistic. It's a good starting point right now. There's a lot more detail in this than in the 1.2 meter. You can see that the batteries are back here, the fuel tank underneath the back here. It's considerably more detailed, but I think there's room for, I think there's room for even more improvement to it, which is something I love doing with these airplanes, is tweaking them a little bit more. Looking inside, it's got the AR637TA, so it's the telemetry edition receiver built into it. It's got a very similar battery tray than the 1.2 meter, except for this thing takes a 6S battery and not a 3S or 4S, and it's best recommended with a 5,000 milliamp battery. And since it is smart enabled, it includes the new IC5 connector here. But yeah, otherwise it really does look like a great big scaled up version of the 1.2 meter in here, with a lot more upgraded electronics than the 1.2 meter ever had. And the last piece of the puzzle here is the outer wing, which was the first piece we started with. And of course, this looks exactly the same. It's got the navigation light installed. So here's the aileron. That's where they decided to make the split. The little plastic clips and the national insignia, and even has a pitot tube on the bottom. So lots of very, very cool scale details in the 1.5 meter P-51 here from E-Flite. This thing, I've built a number of P-51s, flown a lot of them over the years. This one's probably the most impressive one that I've ever seen. I am really excited to have this one in my hangar. I do look at it as a little bit of a blank canvas, meaning, you know, the sky's the limit on what I want to do with it. Everything from detailing the cockpit to repainting or adding decals. I don't really know yet what I'm going to all do to it. All I know is I am super excited to have this one in the hangar. Excited to get started on it. My other two P-51s are from the 361st Fighter Group, so this will fit in extremely well. In fact, I will have the body shim 3, so I only need one more and I will have all 4 of them. The only question at this point is do I leave it in the blue or do I change it to something else? I'm not 100% sure yet. I can say that in person and in the air, the blue looks far better than what you would see in pictures or even in this video. It looks stunning in person. You don't really see that enough until you actually see the aircraft and you're looking at it and you realize how beautiful it is. And in the air, it shows up remarkably well with these markings. If you give it the field camouflage, such as the green, it can have the tendency to hide a little bit if you fly in a woodland setting and you're gonna have trees in the background. I found that with one of my planes in which I added the woodland camo, the green, to it. So I'm not sure what I will do in terms of paint and detailing yet. But you know what? It's fall in Michigan. I have all winter to think about it, and it will be a while before I get this one ready to go. But man, I tell you, it's absolutely a gorgeous airplane. And I think this is kind of the future direction for warbirds, this 1.5 meter with removable outer wing panels. It gets you the scale details that most of us really love. It gets you the power, the performance. It's still easy to store. It's still easy to transport. It's got pretty much everything you really want in a warbird. This is it. So if you guys get any questions on it, by all means leave your comments below. And also, if you have any suggestions on what you'd like to see me do with it, do you want to see me change to a different scheme, change to the kind of the green instead of the blue, leave your comments below. I'm curious to see what you guys have to think about it, because I'm really not sure which direction I want to go. All I know is for right now, I'm super excited just to have this one here on my workbench and excited to get playing with it. So leave your comments below and I'll be sure to answer them.